Hey everybody, welcome to the Nerd Marketing Podcast. Great episode today. Today we talk about the new Klaviyo CRM. Are they repositioning themselves as a CRM? What does that mean for you? We talk about two big beverage acquisitions that happened this week. One for 50 million and one for 1.5 billion. So what made them different? Why are they the same? How do you get one over the other? And we talk about how Four Sigmatic, mushroom coffee brand, just beat their competitors and drove people in store to purchase into Whole Foods, which increased the store velocity and got them great distribution out of it. Hope you enjoy this episode. How you doing, Mike?
Good, Drew. How are you?
Good. I'm a little tired because I was out late last night.
Yeah, I think you were walking the red carpet last night to the VIP Klaviyo CRM announcement event, weren't you?
I was at the big event in New York last night, broing down with AB, our investor, by the way, a Post-Pilot, Andrew Bielecki, the CEO. It's good to see him. And Adil, their new CPO, their new Chief Product Officer, who's an old friend. It was great to see him too. And I was really it was a great event. They rolled out the red carpet. It was sort of like, the old Apple keynotes where Steve Jobs stands up and, he's on that black stage with the two screens. They had the same kind of thing. AB talked, and then Adil talked about this new launch, and they brought up some top brands and top partners and did a demo. And then in the next room over, it was down in Chelsea. The next room over, they had just a great spread, sushi and all this stuff, so you could mingle and eat. So it was a lot of fun. But what they announced was what they're calling their CRM built for B2C, the only CRM built for B2C. And essentially, what they did is that they built a unified data platform in Klaviyo, which they probably already had. But and then they use that platform to power three things, and potentially more coming. But number one, analytics, analytics dashboards, analytics about your customers, analytics about your products and catalog. Number two, service. You can pop up a tool on the front end that can answer questions for your customers about the products, about fulfillment, about whatever's in the data platform. And then the marketing pillar is the third piece. And that's it's more sort of like automated and advice around campaigns to set up and when you should send those campaigns and what should go in campaigns. So marketing, service, and analytics all powered by the data platform. It was a big launch. I was sending you some screenshots, taking photos and sending you throughout. I guess it's going to be as easy as toggling on a switch in the back end of Klaviyo, and then anybody who has Klaviyo can get this live on their site pretty soon. So that was it. Have you read about this thing?
I did, and my first reaction was, okay, we know that Klaviyo's had this CDP product for some time. Many of us on the operating side have been using Klaviyo almost like our CRM going back forever, right? It's like where we house and trigger a lot of that, those campaigns using RFM, and we tag things and we try and consume as much data around our Klaviyo customer profiles as possible. So it makes a lot of sense to me that this is sort of the natural evolution of those pieces of Klaviyo, and now they're really combining it into this more robust platform. I think the surprise to me was the service element of it. That was the piece that I definitely didn't see coming. What were your thoughts on that?
That was really interesting. I mean, it's it's like a bot that pops up on the product page, call it. You could ask it questions about the product. And it sort of had this FAQ functionality in there. But then because Klaviyo is tapping into the Shopify fulfillment data, you can ask like, where is my order? I need to return this. You can do a lot of that sort of stuff through it too. And that's where I was thinking, wow, is like, is Klaviyo going after gorgeous here?
Yeah.
I saw that and it was like, this is help desk software.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, we know, Klaviyo's a public company now. They're thinking about how to expand their TAM. They started moving outside of Shopify with restaurants and other integrations. And that was another sort of moment with that announcement of like, okay, this might be part of their TAM expansion strategy too. We're going into gorgeous territory. What are the other ecosystem functions or tools that you felt they were starting to encroach upon?
Yeah. I mean, if you think of those three pillars, marketing, service, and analytics, the marketing piece was sort of, let's develop some audiences, let's develop some automated campaigns. And there you're talking about, Repeat used to do this. And something like Orita, we just had a webinar with last week, does some of that, like here's the audiences that you should push into. Service we talked about because that looks very much like something that would go up against Gorgeous or any number of help desk solutions. Analytics to me, I mean, in many ways looked like a lot of the old Google Analytics reporting. There was like funnel reporting. There's like your acquisition campaigns and, the customers that come in. They do a little bit more on the customer profiling side. Like, hey, this is, your champion or your whale. And these guys are your bad customer, good customers, bad customers. And do they become better over time? And then they got a lot of the stuff that we have in the Postpilot app, the stuff we give away for free. So, first product purchase, common purchase pass through the site, intra-purchase latencies, buy product A today, and what do you buy in 30 days? What does the customer buy in 30 days? That's all in the analytics piece. So it's huge. I think as you let off this segment saying, like, we've used Klaviyo as the CRM forever. I think Klaviyo finally realized this and they just adopted the name, and in fact, Jake Cohen there was telling me like, hey, we had to do a lot of brainstorming about what we're going to call this before we landed on like the CRM. And I was just like, well, you could have asked me. I don't know. We always used you guys as a CRM. So they're embracing it. It's going to be really interesting to see where they take it going forward. I mean, a lot of the stuff is powered by AI and, are they going to be going after these different categories? So, but exciting event and really cool product.
Yeah, Moise Ali had one take on this that, in 10 years, does Klaviyo become a new Shopify?
I saw that.
Is particularly interesting because Shopify is a fairly significant shareholder, I believe, in Klaviyo. But,
right.
At some point, it feels like these big public sort of behemoths all start encroaching on each other's territory because they have to. They've got to, they've got to continue to expand their TAM. So, obviously, way too early to make any calls. But did you get like an inkling that might be where they're going?
No, it didn't come up at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they. But on the flip side, nor did they talk a whole lot about Shopify. It was not a Shopify like. They didn't even mention Shopify.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like they were platform agnostic. Shopify didn't come up, and to Moise's point, I guess they could slap a card on this thing someday. But certainly, the marketing, service, and analytics, these three pieces that they're doing, Shopify could do just as easily. So, does Shopify eventually go in that direction? It'd be kind of interesting to see.
Did they give any indication on how it changes pricing? Because we know Klaviyo pricing structure has been a very hot topic recently.
They didn't. There's I'm seeing it right on their site now. I'm kind of messing around, but they didn't really get into. Yeah, they didn't get into how it's going to change up pricing.
Well, I think we will find out. But we know Klaviyo is all about building out that ecosystem, building out more tools and capabilities as extensions of their own product and within their general ecosystem. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And Um, yeah, it was great that you got to see it in person.
Yeah, it was fun event. All right, Mike. Given our background in M&A and PE, we like to always. I always appreciate these D2C acquisitions that happen. We had two in the last week. Orabora beverage brand got acquired by Next in Natural on February 19th for 50 to 60 million. It was a majority stake deal for Next in Natural. The other one was Alani Nu, acquired by Celsius Holdings a day later, February 20th for 1.8 billion. So
Yeah,
50 million and 1.8 billion. I have tried Orabora. We know those guys. I have not tried Alani Nu. Have you?
my kids actually love their bars. So I think they're more known for the drinks, but they also have
Okay.
protein bars. My kids love them, take them for lunch, and they're good. I've tried them.
Yeah. I've
They're one of
tried.
the better
I
ones
mean,
I've
I've
had
had Celsius too, the Celsius drink.
for sure.
But really interesting because you've got two beverage brands, um, very different exit outcomes.
Yeah, you got reportedly 50, 60 million. And that was an interesting one because Paul, one of the founders of Orabora, did an interview and it was pretty transparent with their situation and why they thought that this was the right path forward. They raised, what was it, 22 million, I think. They were doing about 15 in top line, most of it through retail. They were in like 11,000 doors. And it's this tough time if you're in that space. If you've raised a decent amount, you don't have clear sort of line of sight to the big exit, or you're in that $15 million revenue run rate is not massive in the beverage space.
Right.
So you're not going to get the market for subsequent funding rounds is very tight if you're in that space. And so you're in a little bit of this no man's land, right? Of like, where do you go? Because you need funding to grow, but you're not really going to get funding based on the current environment and at your, with the current run rate and sort of current characteristics of the business. So I think acquisition in this case makes a lot of sense because it's sort of the only viable path forward. And the fact that they were able to get an acquisition, and I don't know, 50 to 60 million on raising 22 is like, certainly not, I think, what they were shooting for, but not bad. Whereas other folks have no positive exit opportunities right now. But then you contrast that with Alani Nu, they were doing 600 million in revenue, up 80%, and 1.8 billion. What's your take there, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that so you've got a 3 to 4x sales multiple for Orabora, if I did the math right,
Yep.
and about a 2 to 3x for Alani Nu. It's lower multiple, but it's funny because on the 19th, everybody was saying, well, there's so much less money in there in capital out in VC. VCs have pulled out, and there's not going to be the big exits are hard. And like literally the next day, this deal goes through for 2 billion. I think it just shows you can still, as a D2C brand, you can still fetch a big exit in a tight market. I mean, in this case, though, scale really matters, right? So, as you mentioned, for a number of reasons, like Orabora didn't get that scale. They remain sort of a niche player, and I think Next and Natural hopes to get them that scale. But for whatever reason, Alani knew it unlocked that scale. 600 million in revenue, growing crazy fast, 80%. They're in Target, they're in Walmart. So they got some key distribution there. And the deal itself was really interesting to me. So roughly 1.3 billion in cash.
Yeah.
500 million in stock. and then a 25 million earnout. Like if you
You're,
get, here's 1.3 billion, but you're going to have to work for the other 25 million,
I was
you know,
thinking the
the other
same thing.
25 million.
Yeah,
Did you notice that in the deal notes?
I totally did. It's like,
What is
you know,
that?
let me go through these couch cushions in a year or two and see if we can if we got any extra laying around
I
for
mean,
you.
the only thing I could think of is like, is the maybe the 1.3 billion went to a different group than that, and they had to incentivize some random person with the
It's a good
25
call.
million,
Could
like
be.
there's this one guy or woman who joined late. And they're
Yeah,
like, we still need this guy. So,
right.
he's got to work for 25 million because that seemed interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But what,
combination with Celsius seems to make a ton of sense. Celsius, obviously, another rocket ship, so bringing in another high growth brand targeting similar type of demographic, similar category.
yeah.
Man, that combined entity is big. But supposedly, Alani knew was looking for a higher valuation at one point previously, and did come off. Their
Yeah.
what they were.
2 years ago, they were on the market for 3 billion.
Yeah, so
Nobody hit
that's
that.
interesting, and I think one of the big takeaways here for brands, we've said it a lot. I think we're not stating, we're not telling people something they don't already see, but valuations are not what they were a couple of years ago. Run a profitable business, continue to differentiate, continue to build moats, and you can have an exit that's still pretty decent, but temper your expectations.
Yeah. And then, if you have like extreme product market fit, then you've got asymmetric upside potential, but if you stay lean and you don't raise a whole lot of money, and you've got a good cap table, you can still get a life-changing amount for you as a founder. So, yeah, congratulations to both those brands. And it's always fun to hear about what's going on in M&A. All right, Mike. Interesting new direct mail case study dropped this week. Four Sigmatic. They made their name, I think, on mushroom coffee,
Yeah.
mushroom drinks. They did something interesting with direct mail. So, like a lot of D2C brands, they are seeing a lot of growth and expansion by going into traditional retail. In their case, Whole Foods, right? I think they've been in Whole Foods for a while. What they wanted to test, though, is could they drive people to the store to purchase? And why would you want to do this?
Well, so many reasons, Drew. Shelf space is the whole name of the game in retail, and velocity is what keeps you on the shelf. And if you don't drive velocity, I mean, that is the number one thing that a buyer in retail is measured on, the dollars per square foot that in the category that they're representing. And if you don't drive velocity, you are not only not getting expanded into more of their doors, you're potentially just getting the boot. That product shows back up on your loading dock.
Yeah.
You have to take it back, and you're probably not getting back into that store anytime soon because it takes a long time for them to rethink this. So store velocity is so critical for these brands, and we're constantly being asked, can we use direct mail to drive an increase in store velocity? And the answer is yes.
And I think in this case, like the challenge always is like, how do I assess success, right? So what we did in this case was, Four Sigmatic knew they needed to drive velocity in a Whole Foods in Texas. And so we essentially geofenced around that Whole Foods. We came up with a number of attributes that would predict a very good customer for them. I think we did a lookalike off their existing customers and maybe looked at some miles from a Whole Foods, like distance from a Whole Foods, household income, things like that.
Likelihood to buy at Whole Foods, visit Whole Foods multiple times per month. Like we have all of this data in our proprietary data set.
Right. So you get, loves mushroom coffee. You get like this big audience of people who live near the Whole Foods, are likely to buy Four Sigmatic at the Whole Foods, and you drop them a promo, and the promo says like, go buy it at this Whole Foods, this one in Austin, Texas, on the left side of the road, because you're going to get, X% off your first purchase, or some deal on the new product, right? And the way to test this is we chose a similar Whole Foods on the right side of the road that gets the same amount of traffic, typically foot traffic. And it's a way to sort of A/B test, because unlike e-commerce and Shopify, these brick and mortar retailers often don't share a lot of the sales data, and they don't share coupon redemption data, certainly in real time with the brands.
And they
right?
certainly don't share the actual customer. So this is the question we get asked all the time. How do I, because, for folks that have been in retail for years or decades, they get it. Here's what information I'm going to be able to get from my retail partners. Here's how I have to think about marketing and attribution and budget allocation. Us D2C folks are used to knowing exactly who bought what, when, with what code, from what location, where they come from, what channel. And you just don't get that in retail. Like, you put up a billboard in front of Whole Foods, you don't know exactly how many people bought because of that billboard. You run TV ads in a market, you don't know exactly what that did in terms of driving increased velocity. So you have to look at some of these directional signals. And like you said, one way to do that is measure lift at the particular areas you're targeting against similar stores in similar areas, or one geography against another geography. And that's what they did here. And what they found was they saw more than 100% increase in velocity at the Whole Foods that we were targeting. Very specific geography, proximity to that very specific Whole Foods. And they measure that against, as you said, other Whole Foods in the area, which got about a 50% lift. So it was very clear from that yes, this drove a significant incremental increase in velocity as a result of targeting that area with direct mail. And that was a huge unlock, because, again, if velocity is the name of the game, if they can drive velocity, it's not just did they get a return on that one specific campaign. This is like the key thing that we work with a lot of brands on. They need to demonstrate to the buyer, if they want to get greater expansion and greater placement in stores, that they can drive velocity. So it's not about maximizing the ROI on that one specific drop. It's what does that increase in velocity do to the greater business as a result of demonstrating like that higher sell-through. So if they go on to say, that's awesome, we now see that this sells through, and we're going to open up 300 more doors for you as a result of that, or we're going to put you on an end cap as a result of that, think of that as your total ROI on the campaign.
Right.
We would not have had these 300 more doors or 1,000 more doors or these other territories. Yeah. We wouldn't have gotten this placement if we had not invested in driving velocity.
It reminds me of selling through Amazon, really. Like, when you launch a new product through Amazon, you used to have to game it, try to do a lot of promos and run ads to try to drive velocity of that one product, because then you increase your, SEO on your organic listings on Amazon, which work for you into perpetuity, right? So it's the same game for brick and mortar. And the CPG brands we work with know this. You get a beta test in one store or two stores in the middle of like Iowa or Texas, and you have to demonstrate store velocity for like a period of weeks. And if you achieve the velocity threshold, they roll you out nationwide. And if you don't, you're out. So it's like ROAS doesn't matter on this campaign. This campaign's about like, I need to drive as many bodies into that store as possible to take those things off the shelf. And if I do that successfully, I hit the jackpot. So, we call it a shop drop. Use direct mail is a great way to do it, because you can geofence. There are all sorts of attributes in these databases around like proximity and likelihood to buy from a brick and mortar retailer. And in this case, Four Sigmatic has a control group test where they show that it worked. So we're really excited for them and excited for this campaign. It worked really well. All right, Mike, we have a customer question here. It's a question we get from a lot of brands, and that's I think like why automate campaigns? And it's sort of they say it in a different way. It's a little bit like, oh, I thought direct mail was what we use for seasonal promos, like for Black Friday, which is a great time to use it. But I think what that misses is that there are real, financial reasons to use direct mail through the year and automate a lot of campaigns. And I think the top reason uh, is that direct mail as a channel is predictable and diversifies you off other channels. So, what do I mean by predictable? Like, log on to X on any given day, and you are going to see complaints about Meta. It's going to be like, Meta performance is up for us today. Meta performance went to 0 today. I got locked out of my Meta account today. And um, if you were to look at your cost of Meta, and ROAS throughout the year, it kind of does this, right? It certainly goes up around Black Friday when it's a dynamic ad market. Everybody gets into the ad market and starts bidding up costs. The value prop of direct mail, to me, probably one of the biggest, is that it's predictable. If you get an ROI now, and that's because it's not a dynamic ad market, right? You've got a certain price for postage, and it's the same now as it is over Thanksgiving, right? And you get an ROI to a certain customer segment or a ROAS, it's largely going to be the same today as it is throughout the year, right? So it's not that this will be your top performing channel. It may, and in certain campaigns, you might have the world's greatest ROAS. It's more that you are going to get predictability, that you are going to have a baseline month in, month out that drives the same number of customers either to purchase for the first time or for the 10th time, right? So for me, I like thinking of direct mail as a natural complement to email, where if you automate these campaigns, you can automate retention campaigns, you could also automate acquisition campaigns. You're going to get a certain ROAS day in, day out that you can sort of take to the bank. And in a world when Facebook goes up and down, iOS 14 comes out, ooh, we got locked out of our account, or like we no longer reach the inbox because of a Gmail change. You've got one channel in the background that's constantly cranking for you. So I think that's probably the biggest reason you'd want to use direct mail throughout the year and automate.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I got asked this question yesterday, actually, by a brand. What are the most successful brands doing? Like, what does the program look like? And it's what you described. Think of it like your email program, in the sense that you always have these always on flows, right? They're just working for you in the background all the time. It's your welcome sequence. It's your win back flow. It's your abandoned cart flow. Those should always be on. You shouldn't send them once a month. You should send them once a quarter. They're just generating incremental revenue for you in the background, and they're increasing your overall baseline revenue for your business. And so, yes, you should have that. And then you supplement it. You can supplement it with drops around tentpole events. So a new collection is launching, a new sale is going on, a Black Friday event. And you want to target a bigger audience around those specific tentpole events, like your email newsletter. Those are going out to a wider audience around specific events that you want to highlight, but always having those flows in the background is key. Why would you turn them off if they're just generating money for you while you sleep? So yes, predictability, ease of having that set and forget type flows in the background is what brands that are really successfully leveraging the channel are doing.
But Michael, can I ask you a question?
Please.
A question that I get a lot.
Sure.
I already have these evergreen campaigns, win backs, anti-churn, welcome sequences. I already have them automated in email and SMS. They're all automated in Klaviyo. Why do I need direct mail?
Drew, I would challenge you to go into your Klaviyo account and and look at the open rates of those flows that you have. I mean, maybe they're 20%. Maybe if you're killing it, they're 30%. That means the majority of folks are not actually actively engaging with that message. And it's even harder now because, you just saw, Apple Mail just is putting more, filtering more of those promotional messages into different folders so that you're less likely to see them. I mean, that's not changing. That's getting harder. You trigger these campaigns after that email has had a chance to do its thing, and that person has not taken the action that you wanted them to take. So you got a welcome sequence. That sequence is 7 days long. If that person is not bought by day 7, they're becoming increasingly less likely to ever buy from you. So what do? You need to intervene, and you trigger a card on day 8 that says, let's go. Let's get off the fence. It's time to buy. Same thing with your win back sequence. Same thing with your abandoned cart sequence. Once those channels have had time to work, it's a lower cost, so give it a chance. If it doesn't, you need to intervene and try and get that person to take that action, because you are losing the possibility of them ever taking that action the more time that goes on. So that is why you will generate significant incremental revenue when you trigger direct mail after you've sent an email and that person has not taken that desired action.
Right. And I would say you're talking also about subscribers who may not be opening. Like, not everybody subscribes, or they often unsubscribe. So you've also got this wide swath of previous buyers who are not subscribed at all to email or SMS.
Totally. We get brands coming out to us.
Right. On direct mail, you don't need the opt-in. You can still message them, right? So I would say, like, in the average, if I've looked at hundreds of Klaviyo accounts, any one segment on average, one-time buyers who haven't purchased in 30 days, five-time buyers who haven't purchased in 60 days. Any segment you choose, probably 10% are actively opening your emails in that segment, of the customers in that segment.
Correct.
And the other 90% are either not opening, or they're not subscribed or unsubscribed. So with direct mail, you're just getting that message to the other 90%. Almost always works.
Yeah, it works consistently.
Awesome. Good question. Send your questions to us at Michael@Postpilot, and we'll get to them on the podcast.